Feel like some great tasting chicken tonight? Great meal deals, wraps, burgers and sides. We've got it all at Chicken Palace. Call and collect at 302 Lincoln Road on 01733 702 447 or 8 Park Road on 01733 343750. Chicken Palace, open 11am till late.
दोस्ता की परेशान है
जरा कर है ना सारा सौदा मुक्या वा मुल्का विच पैसे भेजने
हूं नहीं अमार फूड वाले की फोन खड़का ते फ्री लोकल डिलीवरी कार मंगवा
आला ता उत्थे कै स्पेशल आ
उना की लबाई हाइजीन च ग्रेड 5 चीजें चंगियां मियारी ते सस्तियां ते नाले ऑफर ही ऑफर
और क्या
ताजा गोश्त ताजी सब्जियां ते फ्रूट आटा चावल दालां मसाले ते जूस सारे बिल जमा करने गैस ते इलेक्ट्रिक ने टॉप अप भी करने पाकिस्तान पैसे बिल्कुल फ्री भेजने मतलब के एक चिड़ी ने दूध छड़ी ते हर शय लबनी
उठ जने ने आप उतरा
Amar Food Store and Halal Meat 613B Lincoln Road Peterborough telephone 01733 687374.
Tired of going to the butchers for your halal meat? Haji Baba is now open in Asda. We've been in Asda for over 10 years with over 45 counters nationwide. Come to us for better packaging, variety and great quality. Chicken breast, cubes or mince, only $3.99 a kilo. Lamb or sheep leg, shoulder or mixed for only $6.99 a kilo. Baby chickens only $1.99. All your halal meat and grocery needs under one roof. Haji Baba Halal Meat. Find us in Asda.
You are the only one, the messenger.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salam Radio.
Yes, good evening. This is Salam Radio. Welcome to Community Matters, live here with me, Adrian Holdstock, the radio show for all communities across Peterborough and beyond. Community Matters asks questions that matter to our community life. As always, there are many topics and issues to discuss, and tonight we have some more great guests joining me in the studio to talk about the world we live in. My first guest is Nick Woods from the Deaf Blind Association. Nick, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you're an outreach worker for the Deaf Blind Association. What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm an outreach officer. And no, right. That's quite all right. And what that means basically is that myself and my new colleague, Louise, we both work in the Cambridgeshire area. So obviously that includes Peterborough and Fenland and Cambridge and the wider county. That's the word I'm reaching for. And we try to reach people that are living with dual sensory impairment. So in some way their vision and their hearing is impaired. And I think that at Deafblind UK we'd see dual sensory impairment on a spectrum. So technically I would probably be on that spectrum myself. I wear glasses, so that there's a mild visual impairment there, and too many music events during my 20s mean that my hearing isn't as good as it could be. So I don't know, maybe in the future my hearing may deteriorate, I'm not sure. It's the sort of thing that now that I'm a worker for Deafblind UK, I would definitely be interested in being a member myself, because in the future it may be a really important link for me.
Surely. And I think we as a society reckon disability is something that we do to people in that they can't live an accessible life in the way they would like to. And so for a small example would be, if your sight can be corrected with glasses and you're comfortable wearing glasses, then the disability of poor vision is overcome.
That's right, yeah.
But when I hear the phrase deaf-blind, I'm thinking people who have no sight and no hearing.
Yeah, I appreciate that the title of the organisation has a sort of level of finality in those words, but like I said before, I think that we're looking at it on a spectrum, so that there is obviously milder cases of that and through to more profound cases of that. I think that I've only been working in this role for about a month now, so I've got plenty to learn. But really, as an outreach officer, we're trying to reach people. It's quite within keeping. It's really interesting to be here on Salam Radio, to be in the Iqbal Centre, because it is something that exists as part of the community. And we're trying to reach people. I mean, really, the mission of our outreach services is to try and combat, if you like, tackle or limit the effects of social isolation on people who live with dual sensory or a level of dual sensory impairment, because we do find that a lot of people end up being kind of hidden, or if a few people that I've met recently in my role, they tell me stories about how they used to do things, they used to access the community, they used to participate, but after sort of deteriorating conditions in their health, they perhaps feel that some of those experiences are now in their sort of former life, if you like. So we have a few things to offer to help people to continue living as independently as they can, and to access that community, and it's really about improving people's well-being from that point of view.
So is this about technical support and aids? Is it about befriending?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah. So there are so many things that I certainly will be master of in the future, that I have to collect myself, remember what we do. I think that the initial, being a member of Deafblind UK, for example, which is a totally free thing, it can be a sort of as large or as small a role as you want in your life. Certainly, there are sort of nice, simple measures that or offerings that we have, such as a call on someone's birthday, and at least one well-being call throughout the year, just to have that contact with someone. So it really depends on the needs or the desires of the individual when they do find us. I run 2 social groups at the moment, one in Peterborough and one in Huntingdon. My colleague Louise looks after the social group that we have in Bury St Edmunds. Although it focuses on Cambridgeshire, our remit, there are a couple of social groups outside of the area that we manage. So there's the possibility to participate in those. Okay. We do have a befriendment scheme as well. So if a member registers an interest with for wanting to access the community in a way which maybe they feel a little bit inhibited in doing so at the moment, we can match them up with an appropriate volunteer to do social things. It's not really an essential care role in someone's life, but for example, I did some training recently with one of our great outreach workers up in Yorkshire called Andrew, and Andrew told me that one of his volunteers that he looks after supports someone in the local community to go to the kind of corner shop, a few minutes walk down the street, be supported to sort of talk through the different selections of biscuits, buy a packet, go home and have a cup of tea, and sort of rate the biscuits. That's kind of an activity they do weekly. So it doesn't have to be anything particularly profound. It can be sort of simple things like that that just allow people to access their community more and get out of their home and have some social contact.
So maybe perhaps going to a football match.
Absolutely.
So you have a friend who has got better sight and hearing, and therefore has the confidence to be able to go with you.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, fantastic.
And so part of what you're saying Deaf-Blind Association organises is the ability for volunteers to become involved and to be matched with somebody who has those needs.
Yeah, we work with local volunteering agencies in the area. I'm always, one thing that I'm starting to do is trying to find, maybe community notice boards or shop windows where I can put notices in. So I suppose the message today is that if anyone's listening and they're interested in volunteering, which I appreciate that can be maybe an intimidating thing. For anyone who's interested in volunteering, they may see Deafblind UK and be a little bit put off by that because it's perhaps something that they're not used to, and it's maybe something that's uncomfortable. But my experience so far is that I meet, everyone I've met so far is so lovely and such good people, and they're really happy to have that support and friendship. Yeah.
When you've got that sort of ethos and culture in an organisation, you really want to take part and be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that I found quite infectious about my short time with Deafblind UK, is that all of my colleagues, there is a really positive and supportive and encouraging atmosphere there. And I think that does help, and that helps me when I'm out in the community to be, I hope, a sort of fairly chirpy and approachable person.
Yeah. And you mentioned social groups.
Yeah.
Is that people coming together for a meeting or an afternoon tea or something?
That's right, yeah. I've only myself been involved in a couple so far in my short time. The Peterborough group that I coordinate, we meet on the last Friday of the month between, I think it's 1:30 and 3:30, and that generally takes place at the Deafblind UK headquarters, which is over in Hampton, not far from the big Tesco's, and Serpentine Green area. Though we plan different activities. This month we are going to Dobby's Garden Centre for afternoon tea. In December we'll go for a Christmas meal, and then after Christmas, in the new year, once the weather starts to improve a little bit, we'll consider other ideas. I know that last year there was a trip organised to the seaside, and my role is to sort of coordinate that and put it together so that we can, that can be something that people will be able to access that maybe they wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do. So, yeah.
Actually, you mentioned the Deafblind Association headquarters. That's the national headquarters.
That's right.
And it's here in our beautiful city of Peterborough.
It's
in Hampton.
Yeah, it is.
I've been there. I went there for another reason, and they rented out meeting rooms, which is why I got to see it. But they've got an incredible display of the sort of support and technology that can help people who are limited.
They do there. I think that we call it the National Deafblind Centre. So there is a kind of some. I was quite impressed when I went to interview, and obviously living so close. I live in Market Deeping, so living so close to Peterborough, I have the opportunity to see that quite a lot. There is an impressive display of kind of history and educational material there that is interactive, and a lot of it is based around trying to show people in an empathetic way a little idea of what it might be like for people who are living with dual sensory impairments. Yeah, and although, I mean, Deafblind is a national organisation, though it might be one that a lot of people are not familiar with, because although we have work throughout the UK, in every region of the UK, we have a presence. It's not necessarily throughout the region.
Sure.
So in East Anglia, for example, really the main area that we are able to, that we have funding for, if you like, is in Cambridgeshire. Yeah.
Now, one of the areas I'm wondering, and it may not be something you've encountered yet in your first month, but occupational advice. So somebody is working through the NHS system, and they have a change of lifestyle. They need more support.
Yeah.
Perhaps better access or better visibility or special lighting. Is that something that the Deafblind Association can help with?
Well, on one side of Deafblind UK, we do have a care service. There is direct care, that as in I'm going to say words that I'm not sure are registered. People will understand. Like CQC registered, like registered care. We do have that side, but that is a distinct part from what I'm involved in. And I go to events and I meet people, and they do ask me questions, and sometimes I don't know the answer. But an important part of my role is to know who to guide people to. Yeah. I mean, at Deafblind UK, we have an information line which is open to anyone to call in for advice.
That's really good to know. Yeah.
And if someone has certainly specific health issues that he's discussed, I mean, obviously I'm not a doctor, but I can guide people to various other agencies in the region, and I'm sure that I'll come to a point where someone will ask me something that I really don't know. Yeah. Well, then I can access my colleagues who may have more knowledge, my managers, and just put people in touch with the right places to go. So a large part of the work that we do on the community side is about signposting people, because we're talking about a group of people who for obvious reasons do have barriers to accessing information or accessing services.
And sometimes it's good to have a friend in a supportive organisation as opposed to the official provision of services that the NHS, for example, would provide. So if somebody has a relative or a friend or a neighbour or even themselves, and they're having some trouble with sight or with hearing, could they get in touch, and how would they do that?
Absolutely. Well, obviously, we have a website. If you type in Deafblind UK, it will take you to the website. On the website, I think in the top right corner, there are some resources there to make a referral for someone. We also have if I unfold my paper, the helpline, the what did I say earlier? The information line. Yeah. And if I can read that out now, if that's appropriate. That's 0800 132 320. I mean, those are the main ways to contact us. If for any reason somebody in the community wanted to speak to me or find out more about what we do, I'd encourage anyone to call that number, and the message will get through to me, and I'd be delighted to speak to people.
Well, we can certainly carry that on our social media. Let me repeat the number again: 0800 132 320.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. And on the other side of the coin, if somebody felt they wanted to explore, could they volunteer? Could they help?
Yeah, absolutely. So we coordinate a voluntary service there. We have a great team based in Peterborough there who look after that. I mean, once someone becomes a volunteer, if they were to become a volunteer in the area, that would be something where they would have more contact with me, and I would effectively kind of manage that voluntary role. So that's one part of my remit as well. And absolutely, we're always looking for people who might be interested in getting involved in the community and doing some of that befriendment. Yeah.
Now, here's a challenge that I find when I encounter somebody who is disabled because of the way society view them. And you get a situation of somebody in a wheelchair, for example, and somebody's looking after them. And you come up and you talk to the person who's looking after them as if the person in the wheelchair doesn't exist. There was a great radio show on BBC Radio 4 called "Does He Take Sugar?"
Yes,
meaning we're not quite sure whether we should ask the patient, the person in the wheelchair. But now I would think, and I really admire the work that you've taken up, to approach somebody whose visual or hearing loss is quite significant, to know how to start that conversation. You must have a very gentle and relaxed demeanour to be able to get involved.
I think so. But I suppose also what occurs to me is it depends on the individual. It really does. There is an incredible sort of care facility, I suppose, in Peterborough that's run by Deafblind, which I went there. They have a really good social group there, and I was talking to one of the gentlemen that lives there, and he's profoundly deaf and profoundly, visually impaired as well. And so he communicates completely with his specialist support workers through something called the deafblind alphabet, which is on his palm, and they write letters on his palm, and he does the same back, and that's how they communicate. So in that instance, I don't have that specialist knowledge yet. I'm determined to learn the deafblind alphabet. It seems a little simpler than it sounds, actually, although I'm incredibly impressed with the sort of dedication of people who've learned it. So in that instance, I would have to have help from that support worker.
Yeah.
But the folks at the social groups that I coordinate, I think it is just having a little bit of patience and maybe a calm demeanour. But I have to say, you get caught out. In my role, I would speak to someone basically normally. You may find you have to repeat yourself, but they'll let you know. Yeah.
And I imagine once we get over our own inhibition and fear about, am I going to be able to communicate? Am I going to be able to come across sensibly? That what you discover is you're meeting another human being, a person of love and brightness and intelligence and experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've worked with people all my life. I mean, my first job, I worked for MenCap as a support worker with adults and with communication and learning disabilities. And I think that from day one for me, I learned the lesson very quickly that people are people. And that's the simple truth, and that goes the same with the folks that I'm in contact with at Deafblind UK as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're not any less because of the way their bodies behave and react. They're just a little different.
I think some of the most interesting characters I've met have been through working in social care. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, I gather you're involved in planning quite a significant event coming up next summer.
I'm very pleased for you to
Do you want to share something about that with us?
Yeah, I suppose it's sort of a nice segue into this by mentioning that that phrase of people are people, and that's something that I think that is carried through with me. And what I mean by that is, I recently I lived outside of the UK for 6 years, and I recently, about a year ago, came back to the area and sort of got more involved with the local community and sort of met a lot of people and things sort of took on a life of their own. And I am now involved with a very new charitable organisation in my spare time, really, called Diaspora Arts, which is a charitable organisation that was set up in the summer. Well, it may have been before that. I'll be corrected later on, I'm sure. But my involvement started in the summer. The organisation was founded by a lady in the local community called Karima Shah and her uncle MJ. They are both respectively chairperson and treasurer. And I joined on initially as a trustee and then became a little bit more involved. And what we're hoping to do is really raise awareness about and to kind of challenge this kind of what we've seen in some parts of the local community as evidence of white supremacy, basically, through some of the graffiti that we've seen on Taverners Road underpass and the Mayor's Walk underpass as well.
Yes.
And so it's really, the ideas of the talented Karima, really.
Yeah.
And I'm helping out by leading the event that we're putting on July the 25th next year, called Arts Against Racism. So we sort of just wanted to contribute to a sense of togetherness and community, really. And we're working towards that community celebration day on Saturday, the 25th of July. And yeah.
Wow. I mean, that diaspora art, so that gives me the impression of people who are gathered from elsewhere, and yet they find themselves making a new home, and their new home is Peterborough.
Yeah, well, I suppose that that is a name that does recognise what modern Britain is about, really, and it also speaks to the fact that although across Peterborough we have people with all kinds of incredible cultural histories or families, and that although while there may be distinct communities within Peterborough, collectively I think that we do need to recognise that we form one community of Peterborough, and I think that we wanted to do something to contribute to that togetherness as a community, whilst sort of celebrating the distinct communities as well.
Surely, yeah, and it's like a way of campaigning in a positive way, using the arts, using people's creativity and imagination, and saying we're human too.
Yeah,
and actually we've got a lot to offer society.
Yeah. Of course, I think that Kareem was inspired to transform some of the sort of negative symbols that we can see and use that as an opportunity to create something more positive and more powerful and peaceful.
Wow.
Really.
Now, 25th of July is a long way away.
It is.
And I know that you've already realised there's a lot of planning and preparation you can do.
Absolutely.
Is there anything more generally the public can do to get involved? And
well, I mean, if it's an appealing idea, well, if I explain a little bit more about the event, what we're hoping to do is have an event where we'll have some speakers and artists and poets and music, and I hope to involve some food as well. That would obviously appeal, and have it kind of like a festival, really. So including musicians as well. We actually are going to have a local talent contest as part of the day as well for musicians or dance groups, with a prize of £250 in total, split between first, second, and third, and that will be something that will be judged on the day by people who attend. To get involved in that sense, or if you're an artist or a poet or a speaker, and have that kind of message of positivity and hope and peace and togetherness, we'd love to hear from people. I don't have a phone number set up just yet, but we do have a Facebook page. If you type in Diaspora Arts Charity into Facebook, you will surely come across
Diaspora Arts Charity.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah.
And that's taking up your spare time.
It is, yeah. I mean, it does take more organisation than I expected. Yeah. So we're really grateful that we received funding from the Near Neighbours project and the National Lottery Community Fund as well.
Yeah.
And on the day, we're hoping that artists will be able to lead groups and help the local community to, across Peterborough to participate if they feel like it.
Well, fantastic. And you must come back to us in the new year
and
tell us more about the details.
I'll bring Karima on.
Do indeed, please. We'd love to meet her live on the show here on Salam Radio.
Fantastic.
And we've come to the end of this half of the show. A big thank you, Nick Woods, Outreach Officer for Deafblind UK and enthusiast for diaspora arts, in your spare time, getting that great event going for July next year.
Thank you, Adrian.
So do stay tuned. There's more to hear after the break.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Where can you get high quality and low prices? Amar Food Store and Halal Meat in Lincoln Road, Triangle is the place to go. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. Also send money to Pakistan absolutely free. We have all top brands at special offers, offer free customer parking and provide a free local delivery service. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call us on 01733 687 374. High in quality, low in prices.
There's a million choices available for dining out in Leeds.
But if you want something special, there's only one name to remember.
Mumtaz Leeds.
Relax in our newly refurbished Riverside restaurant.
Enjoy exquisite home cooking from our brand new menu. Upgrade to the Mumtaz Leeds experience.
And the price? Well, we're better value than ever before.
Mumtaz Leeds, Chadwick Street, Leeds, LS10 1PJ. Call 0113 242 4211.
Free car parking available.
कोई रत्तियां कमीज़ानी अल्लामा ना मारे मामा मिठियां में चीज़ानी।
मेरा नाम मुकद्दस है और कोट मेरा घर है और ये मेरे लिए किसी जन्नत से कम नहीं। हमारे भी कुछ ख्वाब हैं जिनकी ताबीर को हमें पाना है।
आइए इन बच्चों के ताबनाक मुस्तकबिल के लिए अपना हिस्सा डालिए। अपनी ज़कात, सदकात, खैरात और इमदाद कोट को दीजिए।
UK number 0300 123 7774. Website court.org.uk.
Allama Rad Tiles. With over 70 stores nationwide, we are now open in Peterborough. Up to 50% discount offers now on. Largest selection of tiles. Full bathroom suites from only £189. Paint, LED lighting, laminate flooring from only £7.99. Over 1,000 designs of wallpaper in stock. We have everything you need. Come and visit us at 193 Fengate, Peterborough, PE1 5BH, or call us on 01733 34 58 47. Almarad Tiles, now open.
In the mood for some authentic Desi food? Try Desi Restaurant on Lincoln Road. Start your day right with our Desi breakfast every day from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Halva puri, channa, nihari, paya, paratha and omelette. Need a tasty lunch? Every day 1 to 4 p.m. we've got fast food, pizzas, kebab sandwiches, tandoori dishes, balti dishes, biryanis and much more. We're also open every evening 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. Try our Desi Tawa special or our fresh handi, 1 kg chicken or lamb on the bone, cooked to order. Eat in, take away or free delivery. Visit desirestaurant.co.uk to view the full menu and order online. 60-seat capacity and a private function room. Catering service also available. Desi Restaurant, 298 Lincoln Road, Peterborough, PE1 2ND. Call us now on 555 795.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salam Radio.
Welcome back to Salam Radio on 106.2 FM and online at salamradio.co.uk. This is Adrian Holdstock presenting Community Matters, the radio show for all communities in Peterborough and beyond. We've two more guests with me in the studio. It's Bryony and Kate. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome both. Let me just get your mics up now. Bryony, I'm told that you are poet in residence here at the Iqbal Centre for the time being.
Yes, I am. Just for the month of November, I'm being here for 5 days as part of the Syntax Poetry Festival. So I've done 2 days so far. Today was my second day. So 3 more to go. And then concluding with the celebration event, which is on the 28th. So yeah, it's very exciting. It's been wonderful so far.
How did that come about that you're here?
So the residencies are kind of run and funded by the Syntax Festival. So there's actually 3 across the city. There's one here at the centre. There's one at Neen Park and one at the City Market as well. So they've each got their very own poet. And there's also a range of like flash residencies, which is where a poet goes for 1 day to a venue of their choice. So I think people have chosen cathedrals and chip shops and kind of everything in between. So so I sort of applied for the residency and got it, and here I am.
Gosh. And what have you been doing?
Good question. It's my first time being a poet in residence. So I I wasn't sure what to expect, but I work at a community centre where I live, and so that plus poetry, which I loved, seemed exciting. So I've kind of been doing a range of things. I've got to write 2 poems as part of it, which kind of reflect the stories that I'm hearing and the people I'm meeting. But I also ran a poetry workshop today as part of Rich's Thursday club. So we had a few people come along to that, which was really good. Yeah. And I'm kind of trying to get a few interviews with people and just chat and mingle and be a part of the groups. And that's kind of basically it. But it's very good.
So it's about encouraging poetry amongst ordinary citizens in a community.
Yes, absolutely. And as part of that, I actually hope to maybe get some of the people from the workshop or other people. I've actually met a surprising number of people who write poetry.
Oh, wow.
Which is amazing. Yes. They're all like, oh yeah, I'll do a bit of that, which is really, really nice to hear. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, like you have to come to the workshop, or possibly we might do something else on here as well, on the radio, or I'm trying to get people to join me in the performance at the end of the month as well, to actually read their poems. Encouraging that, especially among people who maybe haven't performed or been part of like the art scene before.
Yeah. I'm just going to turn to Kate for a moment, because I know you're heavily involved in arts, of creative arts. Do you write poems?
I do not write poems. I think there are plenty of poets in this city. They do not need another one coming. Well, definitely don't need me just dipping in, because I don't do it. I just think the Syntax Poetry Festival has just been brilliant. It's been run by the poets in the city. They've done some brilliant things. These residencies are working so well. I had to pop into the park yesterday and have a piece of cake with the poet who was there. It's such a great idea, because they've got like the events that you would have, like shows and talks and that sort of thing, but the residencies, like having 3 like hefty residency, 5-day residencies and 10 flash residencies, such a brilliant idea, because it's engaging so many different people and getting so many different people sort of thinking, actually I quite like spoken word, whether there is an audience or a writer. It's just, for a first time festival, it's really working really well from what I can see.
Now your approach to poems is my approach to painting. I think I can't paint, so I can't sit down in front of a canvas and create anything, because I just tell myself, the mental block, I can't do it, so I won't even try.
I wouldn't say I can't write poetry. I just do lots of other things, really. I'm writing stuff all the time, but I tend to be writing stuff on behalf of, I do lots of producing, so I'm supporting other people to make their work. So if somebody wanted to give me, 6 weeks off to write poetry, I'd give it a go. But I can't see that happening, so I'll just carry on doing what I'm doing.
I'm just going to see if Bryony can persuade you to write a poem.
Oh, well, I feel you should have been here this afternoon. You can 100% write a poem. You probably already have written a poem.
With your support, I probably could. But I was writing applications, trying to recruit trustees for my company all afternoon. So much more prosaic.
Yes. Write the applications in rhyme.
Could do. Yeah.
Bryony, how did you become a poet?
Oh, God. I feel, in a way, I've always been a poet, which sounds really pretentious, but I used to, when I was growing up, I used to write a lot of very emotional kind of song lyrics when I was like 12 or 13, and they were really, really deeply terrible, really deeply shameful stuff. But I think that's always kind of stayed with me. And then when I was a bit older, I kind of found a lot of poetry that I loved on the internet, and that kind of influenced me. And I just thought, I want to write stuff like this. And I just kind of went from there. Took a few classes here and there. Just started doing it, really. Yeah.
And is poetry more a spoken art, as Kate has mentioned, or is it a written art that people just appreciate on the page?
I think it's a bit of both. I would say that some poets are more leaning towards like the spoken word or the performance, and that's kind of an integral part of how the poem is presented and kind of has its power and holds its meaning, is the performance. I would say my poetry is more on the page. I do perform and I like it, but it's probably slightly more meaningful kind of written, like if you read it just in your head. So yeah, it's kind of a whole spectrum, and there's a lot of overlap as well. I think it's important that poets do perform their work to kind of bring it to audiences, obviously. Yeah.
You don't have anything with you to share with us, do you?
I can read a poem if you would like.
I would love.
Oh, okay. You've persuaded me. I'll read a poem. I've got my little pamphlet here.
Now, this is live on Salam Radio.
Please buy my book.
Bryony Littlefair.
I need royalties.
Let me hold this up to the camera. This is Giraffe. And there's a picture of a very tall-necked giraffe by Bryony Littlefair, winner of the Muslexia Poetry Pamphlet Competition. Indeed.
Yes, thank you.
So what are we going to hear?
What are we going to hear? Shall we hear the title poem, the eponymous Giraffe? It's a crowd pleaser. It's like Wonderwall for Oasis. Similar vibe. Giraffe. When you feel better from this, and you will, it will be quiet and unremarkable, like walking into the next room. It might sting a little, like warmth leaking into cold numbed hands. When you feel better, it will be the slow clearing of static from the radio. It will be a film set when the director yells, "Cut." When you feel better, you will take a plastic spoon for your coffee foam, free chocolates from the gleaming oak reception desk, the bus on sunny days, your own sweet time. When you feel better, it will be like walking barefoot on cool, smooth planks of wood, still damp from last night's rain. It will be the holy silence when the tap stops dripping, the moment a map finally starts to make sense. When you feel better, you will still suffer, but your sadness will be graspable, roadworthy, have handlebars. When you feel better, you will not always be happy, but when happiness does come, it will be long-legged, sun-dappled, a giraffe.
Gosh.
Great reaction.
I thought it was great. I love the way it planted loads of images in your head.
Thank you.
I think that's what's... I do actually... I've learned a lot about poetry hanging out with the various poets in the city, especially the ones who've organised this festival. And it's a really... All art takes you somewhere else and makes you think of something else. But I think what's great about poetry is it's literally... You can pick it up out of your bag and it's suddenly you're there, and then it can go back away again. It's a real transportable, accessible, DIY kind of art form which everybody can access.
I felt I was going into a different dimension.
Oh, God, I love that. Doctor Who.
It just, well, yes, but it just made me feel, gosh, I don't want to think or care. Well, I can't think or care about anything else. This is now my world. And you've taken me into that world. And before we close, I'm going to ask you to read that again, because I think it's just like music, or when you see a piece of painted art, you appreciate it more the more you take it in. So would you be willing to read it to us again at the end of our show?
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. Thank you, Bryony. Syntax Poetry Festival. I'm afraid I've not picked up on this and heard about it across the city. Can you tell us more?
I mean, I'm just a supporter, but I was at the meeting where they decided to do it, because I run a network called What Next, which is about supporting artists to do stuff that the city might need. And there was a conversation about doing like groups, people working together, because there's lots of, particularly poets, they can do their work on their own. And working with Metal, who are an arts organisation based in the city, they kind of facilitated a conversation with a group of artists to say, right, you keep talking about doing a poetry festival. Shall we sit you in a room and make you do it? And I think they had a dinner and they had a conversation about it. It took about maybe best part of a year, for they did a funding application, came up with this brilliant programme. And what's great is it's a whole programme led by poets, and they've designed it to, you know, sort of bring in the best things that they know happen. So you've got residencies, you've got shows. They had a lecture last night from a poet about the history of spoken word. They've got a great thing that's overlapping with another festival which has just started, the Gateway Film Festival, and they're bringing that together, and they've got silent movies, surreal silent movies, and poets doing the soundtrack. You know, they're just doing sort of stuff like that. So there's also, and they've had Mark Grist did a show he's probably Peterborough's most famous poet. He did a show last weekend which went down really well. So it's all a whole sort of combination, like a proper festival, lots of different things, because a festival is like, you should look at it and go, oh, there is something in that for me. So it's very inclusive, and that's what this festival is doing. But it's also making people stop and think about, oh yeah, poetry, it's not something that I found really boring at school. If it's taught badly, it's not always. But it's something that can be part of everyday life, but makes life better. And I think they've really nailed it with this Syntax Festival. So they've had the Poet Laureate competition as well. They've announced a new Poet Laureate, Malika. And so that's interesting as well, because that's about raising the profile throughout the year of poets and poetry in the city, which is great. So so it's just year one. I'm sure you'll know more about it when they do it next year, and it will gain more and more traction.
Oh, wonderful. So, I hope so. Yes, I do. And I hope we see more of Bryony coming to share your poetry and the workshops and the teaching and encouraging of other people to get involved in poetry.
I would love that. I would love that.
Now, Kate, you're involved in a lot of production work, behind the scenes work for arts activities and programmes. What's going on at the moment in your world?
So I run Jumped Up Theatre Company.
Jumped Up Theatre Company. Which
is basically, we do things that are bigger than our boots. And it's me and a whole set of associates, including, say, Claire Curry, is one of the organisers of Syntax. And we've done things like create the Platform 8 Festival, which was 6 festivals over 3 years, which brought really high quality work to the city, including to your fair establishment. So the Platform 8 Festival is a bit of a hold at the moment because the funding for that has finished, but I'm looking into raising more money. But we're carrying on our partnership with London's Battersea Arts Centre about bringing great work to Peterborough, and we're part of the Moving Roots touring network, and that will be 3 projects over the next 3 years, which will be co-created with the community. So I don't know what they are going to be, because it's sort of up to conversations that I have with the community, and it's also up to, there are 4 other partners nationally that I'll be working with, and we'll be commissioning something that will tour to the city. And then what I'm doing currently is I'm having conversations with people about what's important to them in the city, asking them questions like, if you were mayor for the day, what would you do? Things like that. And you can go online to the Jumped Up Theatre website, and on the first page there's a link where you can take part in that survey and give me your ideas. So you need to sort of do that in the next week or so. And then I will take those ideas and those feelings and those senses, almost poetic, has to be said. I'll take them to the network meeting, because we're going to Wigan for that network meeting and meeting the other people who are also from London, Medway, Cardiff and Blackburn. And we'll kind of have a little, what are we going to do then? And we'll pick our first project, and that I'll know by December, hopefully, maybe January, about what happens next. So very unusual to have funding but not know what you're going to do, which is quite exciting.
Oh, it is, yes. Now, some people naturally lean towards performing arts and getting involved, whether it's writing or doing the stage sets or performing. But have you encountered people who've really found a new inner self because they've got involved for the first time?
Oh yeah, it can happen in various ways. I mean, I've had shows where people have been to see it and they come out really quite emotional, and they'll say, "You've told my story. I didn't know that other people had the same experience as me." Or I was doing some filming the other day for another project, and I met this woman who'd been to see a children's show I'd put on. And she told me that whenever she's in the woods with her kids, her little boy will pretend that there's monsters, just like in the play that she saw that I put on, and he'll go, Russell, 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 which is what happened in the play. And it's things like that. So it can change, it can give people new stories to tell, but also being part of something can give people confidence and skills, and it gives you like the feeling that somebody's listening to you. So there's all sorts of ways that being part of performance or any sort of art form can sort of improve your life.
Building up people, improving lives. Wonderful.
It's quite a privileged position to be in.
Yeah.
It's kind of sort of it's like a health check for the soul, I think, is sort of how I describe it. So.
Well, as a local vicar, I would say music to my ears.
Very good.
Bryony, if you were mayor for the day, what would you change?
Oh my gosh. Is it? Well, I mean, I have to admit, I actually live in London, so I'd be London mayor.
Okay.
Oh, very powerful.
Gosh, what would I change? Oh, one thing or lots of things?
Well, it's like, what would you do? What would happen on the day that you're mayor for the day?
God, I'd probably shut myself in a little room and have a good panic. I'd read your notes, Kate. I'd ask to read your notes and what people would want to change.
Lots of things like people saying wanted to close streets and have a street party, which has got lots of artists involved.
Yeah.
Or a massive tea party for the elderly. People want to say make public transport free across the city and everybody encouraged to go and visit somewhere they've never been to in the city. And yeah. Lots of, and then a few things sort of saying if I was mayor for the day, I'd sell the car and because I have a fancy car, sell the car and spend it on having a party or something. But there's lots of stuff about people getting everybody together, which is really great.
Yeah,
and that's a real common theme that's come through. So if people want to tell me what they would do if they wanted to be mayor for the day, you just need to go on the Jumped Up Theatre website and just drop us a line via the survey and tell us what you would like. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think that touches on something I would do, which is fund community spaces and libraries. Yeah, I think that's so important because it's a jumping off point for so many things. It's just having space, having free space, accessible space. Yeah, and like the outcomes of that for like everything, like health, well-being, arts, like social cohesion, like it's just huge.
Yeah. There's less and less sort of what they call uncontested spaces that belong to everybody. So yeah, I think that's where the idea of the street parties come in, because that's like taking over a space. But the same is like taking over buildings. I always say libraries are more than buildings with books. There's something quite much more powerful than that.
Well, of course, our central library here in Peterborough, we've also got the John Clare Theatre upstairs. It's a wonderful facility. And last summer we hired it out for a pilgrimage, Christians and Muslims together, celebrating 800 years since St. Francis crossed the battle lines of the Fourth Crusade to meet the Sultan. And it affected his theology of hope and what it meant to be human, and it affected the Franciscan movement.
I never knew that. My primary school was called St. Francis, and I never knew that.
Well, now, I'm going to come back to that poem, if I may, Bryony.
Yes,
Would
of course
you read
you can.
it to us again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Giraffe. When you feel better from this, and you will, it will be quiet and unremarkable, like walking into the next room. It might sting a little, like warmth leaking into cold, numbed hands. When you feel better, it will be the slow clearing of static from the radio. It will be a film set when the director yells, "Cut." When you feel better, you will take a plastic spoon for your coffee foam, free chocolates from the gleaming oak reception desk, the bus on sunny days, your own sweet time. When you feel better, it will be like walking barefoot on cool, smooth planks of wood, still damp from last night's rain. It will be the holy silence when the tap stops dripping, the moment a map finally starts to make sense. When you feel better, you will still suffer, but your sadness will be graspable, roadworthy, have handlebars. When you feel better, you will not always be happy, but when happiness does come, it will be long-legged, sun-dappled, a giraffe.
Gosh, I just want to breathe that in. It's wonderful.
Do it.
Thank you, Bryony, and thank you for sharing that. Well, thank you for writing it and
thank
sharing
you.
it with us. Now, just a couple of minutes we have left to go. Are there any more opportunities and workshops coming up that people can engage with you and your poetry?
Sure. Well, I'll be here for 3 more days throughout the month. So I'm here at the Iqbal Centre on Monday and Friday, and then on Thursday the 28th.
Mm-hmm.
I would love if you're local or you want to pop in, come and see me, come and chat to me. You can come and fill out one of my lovely word sheets, and those words and thoughts and images will all feed into my poems. If you are a poet or a writer, I would especially love for you to get in touch, and we can talk about you being involved in potentially the readings or possibly in another radio slot as well. So yeah, please do get in touch and come and see me.
Okay.
Or yeah.
Is there somewhere online people can find that information about how to check out when you're going to be here?
I don't know if there is actually.
I'm sure they could contact Syntax. Poetry Festival is on all the social media.
Yeah.
Syntax Poetry Festival.
That's who to look up.
Right.
Is Syntax.
Then they can find out about all the other things that the festival's doing. as well.
There's still like lots more to come, I think, this month, and it's all very exciting. So yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So that's Syntax, Syntax.
Yeah, Poetry Festival.
Poetry Festival. And then, Bryony, you're based here at
Yes.
Gladstone Connect, which is the Iqbal Centre on Cromwell Road. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
And I do hope you come back on air again and share some more of your poetry.
I would love to, Adrian.
Yeah, right.
I need an audience.
And Kate, the Jumped Up Theatre Mayor for the Day Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me your ideas so it can help shape whatever projects that we do next. It's been hugely informative hearing people's ideas. Or if people want to, again, I can always pop into the Iqbal Centre and talk to people directly. So they can contact me via Jumped Up, and we've got all the social media as well. So drop me a message and I can pop in. So I'm in here all the time, so I can pop in and interview people as well and get their ideas. I'd love to hear them, especially from this local community. Really great to have their ideas represented.
Gosh, wow, that's so exciting and so positive for communities where we're not quite sure what's going to happen in life. We're not quite sure what's going to happen with the general election, even with the weather. But there's a bright
There'll
side.
still be theatre and there'll still be poetry.
Oh, won't there be?
Forever.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of our show. And many thanks to our guests, Bryony and Kate, tonight, talking about the Jumped Up Theatre and the wider activities of arts across our city. And Bryony, poet in residence here at the Iqbal Centre, but also great poet with published poetry coming up from London to help us understand the beauty and the value of being poets ourselves. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And that's all we have time for tonight on Community Matters. But do remember, you are the community that matters wherever you are. We'd like to be a community that lives in peace and harmony. So from me, Adrian Holdstock, salam, shalom, namaste, and the peace of God to you all. Good night.
You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Isha Azan.